Welcome. This is the Kingdom Come podcast. It's an extension of Overland Park Community Church. And today we get an opportunity to get to know a few more members of the body of the church. It's such a beautiful tapestry of so many lives and so many stories of how God is moving. And so what an exciting time when we get to meet some new stories and hear some new stories. And so today we get to learn a little more about Kevin and Brittany Knowlton. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for taking time today. And we're just going to dig in because, gosh, I know God's doing so many amazing and exciting things, not only in you guys, but through you for OPCC. And so I'm excited about our conversations today.
Yeah.
Let's start way back because I don't know much about the background of Kevin and Brittany. So where are you each from? How you ended up here? Let's just start there.
Yeah. It kind of works out. I know for us, we've crossed paths quite a bit in church, like you serving in the sound booth and us being I'm on the worship team. And so it's, I feel like there's been a lot of opportunities. This is actually kind of cool, genuinely not just a podcast, but let's get to know each other a little bit. I think it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess a good place to start, just kind of introducing more about me going, I guess go all the way back to, start testimony wise with this. I think that makes sense. Kind of going back to, how I came to know the Lord
let's just start where are you from? Tell me your roots a little bit. I definitely want how you got to know the Lord story.
That's fair.
Give me a few roots first.
Yeah, okay. So, for me, I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee. And
I grew up from San Jose, California.
Okay. Wait a minute. How's a boy from Memphis, Tennessee end up with a gal from San Jose, California?
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting story. I'll let you go in.
Yeah, so my sister was going to Evangel University and her brother was going to Evangel University, and they got to know each other. We both also went on campus visits to the same school. We were there at the same time, kind of got to know each other through our siblings. And so we developed a relationship actually through a campus visit. And we were both looking at multiple schools we could go to. And, anyway, over a period of time through that, we kind of, we stayed in touch and eventually both ended up going there. We started dating. My sister started dating her brother.
Okay.
And they ended up getting married. We were still dating. So we never broke up and we ended up getting married as well. So we ended up we ended up going to the same school together.
Yeah.
Both ran cross country and track there. So that's how we ended up meeting in the middle in Springfield, Missouri, is where we went to school. But yeah, it's a unique situation where, siblings married siblings.
It makes, holiday gatherings really easy, right? The same families all
Yeah, it's even easier because they live right next door to us.
Yeah.
So we get to kind of live life together.
Yeah, because they still live in the Kansas City area as well. And we ended up buying 2 tracts of land. They're near each other. So it's a total of 20-ish acres. Yeah. And we split it right down the middle. So both ended up building houses. So we live near each other. Cousins get to see each other a lot. And play
that's
together.
awesome.
They're all near the same age. So.
Yeah, to have family growing up together, that's a gift.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And definitely makes it easy for the grandparents because we're all right there.
So tell me a little bit about your faith stories then, because obviously Evangel is a Christian school. So I'm assuming Christ came into your life relatively early, probably.
Yeah, for me, I actually grew up in a pastor's home. And so my dad's pastor, my mom led worship. So really fortunate that I had that because I did grow up in that Christian home. I really got to know that faith growing up. They lived it obviously at church. They lived it at home and really learned how to apply that Christian faith throughout my life, especially in somewhere like California where it's different than here. Most of my friends weren't Christians. Most of my friends never stepped inside a church. They didn't know Jesus. And so I really had to take hold of my faith growing up. And I feel like that really helped me grow.
Can you remember, was there a specific time where you remember thinking, that was my mom and dad's faith. This is my faith. I am making it my own now.
It's really hard. I was trying to think through that. I know there was a specific point, at a kids camp, that I, formally went through the words, and then I got baptized that summer. But I will say I don't remember a point in my life where I didn't believe. It was always something I believed. It was always something I went into school and I would talk to my teachers about. It was just, I don't know, I always held on to that faith. And I'm very thankful for that and I know that was a lot from my parents. And it was just always there. And then obviously I went to a Christian university. And so kind of went from there. But
that's sweet. That's sweet.
Yeah. And for me, I grew up in a Christian home. And my family's faith really started on my dad's side of the family. He grew up in a really strong Christian home, and my mom didn't. She grew up in a broken home, and she came to know the Lord through my dad when she was in college. So by the time I was born, they were both heavily involved in a church and definitely had been fully transformed and were actively in the Word and were, just had a really strong relationship with the Lord. So I was really blessed that I had a different story than a different experience growing up than what my mom had. I definitely have heard stories of, alcoholism and, divorce and the impacts that had on my mom. Incredible testimony and story. But her then getting to go and pour into me what she got to pick up later in life, had a huge impact on me, where I'm similar to Brittany, where there was never really a point in my life where I didn't believe. I think that there was definitely a point when you flip a switch where, it's like, okay, this is something I believe. It wasn't something that I ever disbelieved in. I definitely always was like, this is, but at some point it became like a realization, kind of that first transformation that happened. And for me, it was similar, and oddly enough, similar to her, where I was at a camp. It was kind of a Boy Scout type of camp, but it was very Christ-centered. They called it powwow, but
okay.
We were tent camping, things
Royal
like
Rangers?
that.
No.
Royal Rangers,
Royal Rangers,
So it was through Royal Rangers, and so there was our troop leader. His name was David Bush, and he was just a major mentor in my life for several years. And at powwow, he led me to the Lord and kind of had that initial transformation experience, and then got to just experience life with him. I know I mentioned earlier, ran cross country and track. He ran cross country and track at Evangel as well. He was the major influence in my life that ended up leading me to the Lord. Followed him in his footsteps to go to Evangel and run cross country and track. And he had I'd say a really big influence on just kind of seeing what it looks like to lead a godly life and to pour that out into your kids and kind of so on and so forth. So that for me is what ultimately went from that initial transformations that ended up leading me to Evangel and coming to know the Lord.
I can't even imagine the moments to be able to pour into somebody during a run. There's so much, right? Like when you're trying to run a race, that parallel are running our race of faith. Man, what a great mentor to have.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. First charity 5K I ran was with him, and we do a lot of training runs together. And then obviously he was doing powwow, make Pinewood Derby cars together and stuff. But it's just definitely I feel like a good influence that I can carry with me now as a parent, trying to figure out how it's like, hey, how do you pour into your kids now, similar to what I experienced. Now I'm hoping that there will be people like Corey or whoever, because my parents were a major influence. They played a role, but I think having those other men in your life for thinking that way, because I'm a boy dad too. Having other men to kind of come in and reinforce that, I think was huge for me anyway.
Yeah, man, those influences around us are huge. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's what a gift to know that you both had the opportunity to grow up believing, right?
Yeah.
And then having that moment where we go from believing to committing. So that's beautiful. Let's talk about your journey to Kansas City. I mean, it's not that far from Springfield to KC, but when you're from Memphis and you're from California, neither one of you ended up back home. You ended up here.
Yeah, it's just where the jobs honestly led us. I went to school to become a math teacher, so we knew for my job, that's everywhere. Mm-hmm. So it's really just based on where he can get a job, and that was Kansas City. Yeah.
So when I was senior in school, applying all over the place, applying for places in Springfield. We really loved Springfield. We had a church we were really plugged in to there, and we kind of wanted to stay in Springfield. We liked Springfield area, and I think there was even a part of us saying, hey, maybe someday Brittany will be able to be a professor at Evangel, which irony.
Yeah. I still am right now.
Still
still opportunity still came.
But looking around, just absolutely struck out for tech jobs in Springfield, which makes sense. And there's definitely a lot more technology-based roles available in Kansas City. So we were definitely sad to leave our church that we were really plugged into. The Courageous Church is what's called. It's in Springfield, Missouri. And had really great connections there, had been going there all throughout college. So we were a little bit sad to leave, but jobs just brought us here. And so, I got an apartment just up the road, and we moved up to Kansas City. And that's how we ended up getting here. It was, first move up here. It's like, well, we don't really know anyone other than we did have like our siblings were in the area. They were already up here. I didn't necessarily know anybody here. And obviously my family's 8 hours away in Memphis. Hers is a whole lot further away.
There's a big mountain range between us and them.
So not necessarily close by, but so moved here and, a little scared entering the real world and figure out how this is going to go. But we ended up graduating a little bit early from Evangel. And so we graduated.
Semester early.
Yeah. So we were middle of the year. We graduated in December. So you're going, well, I guess, Brittany being a school teacher, she's not going to have work middle of a school year. So, we'll figure that out. But then somehow the Lord just showed up and
I got a full-time job halfway through the year.
At a school. So not even subbing or anything, but ended up
full-time.
Actually getting an opportunity at a school in the area.
Yeah. Well, at Schlegel in KCK.
Yep.
So that was a whole different world.
Yeah.
That was definitely a wake-up call, but it was definitely a God thing getting that and
What a chance to be a light there, though.
Yeah, for sure. I was able to really be a light to those kids and I mean, it's rough for sure there. Mm-hmm. And I mean, they have one of those, what they have the airport security things. I actually had to run that at one point and look at those.
It was wild being at work and getting a picture, being like, look at what I'm doing today. And she sends me a picture of she's literally looking at the scanner, scanning people's backpacks into the
which
school,
I did not feel qualified to do.
Yeah, which that seemed very bizarre, very wild to me. Growing up, I was homeschooled. The first time I stepped into a classroom was when I was in college. That was the first classroom experience I had. So it was. I didn't know what to think. I was like, okay, my wife is.
But it was a good opportunity. I really felt like I could really just love on those kids, and that's what they really needed. And I was able to coach track, and so I kind of got to lead a group of kids. And I mean, it's a struggle. You have a meet, parents aren't really there, and we have to wait forever for parents to come up. Sometimes we're taking them back home, but I felt like I really had the opportunity to just love on those kids. It was really cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. Especially I would get to be around it on weekends at track meets or evenings at track meets and stuff like that, and just being able to see. I mean, these are kids that a lot of them are coming from similar backgrounds to my mom. More broken homes and challenging situations, and being able to see how much they were protective of Brittany. It was really interesting.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, genuinely protective is the best way I know to say. And so it's just really cool to be able to see that impact. And I don't know, at least for me, it was a good, awareness moment of some degree of how much people need the Lord, and just to I feel like just some of the strategy that should go into education system, but that's a whole other rabbit hole.
That's a different podcast.
Yeah, that's a different podcast for sure.
So let's get caught up to how you came to OPCC, and let's talk about your family a little bit. Let's start there first because you mentioned being boy dad.
Yeah.
So break down the kids a little.
Yeah, we have a 3-year-old boy, Callum, our little curly redhead that we love, and then we have our youngest is Oliver. He's 8 months.
Okay. Is Callum, right?
Callum.
Good big brother. Has he been doing well?
It's
a big adjustment.
It's a big adjustment.
I will say he loves his little brother. He always says that. We're still learning to be gentle.
Gentle.
Yeah. He wants to play with him so bad, but we're still learning our strengths.
He'll catch up soon. He'll be roughhousing before you know it. Yeah. So what brought you guys? You talked about your relationship and your connection with your church that you came from and how hard it was to leave there in Springfield. So what connected you to OPCC? What was it that drew you here and kept you here?
Yeah, the church in Springfield was very different from here. And honestly, it was just a different community. The north side of Springfield, you definitely, we left because there weren't as many tech jobs. I think even just a different group of people, different culture completely that we experienced on the north side of Springfield. So I feel like the positioning of that church and really what that community needed was different from here. And so what we saw there was a church that was very invitational, that was very almost marketing centric to that community. They're trying to reach a very lost community, and those people were challenged enough. They had a lot of challenges in their life, and they needed church to kind of meet them where they were. So it was a really good opportunity to be very evangelistic oriented. And then moving here, we first got here, we go to Google and say, churches in Overland Park. And the first one that pops up is Overland Park Community Church. So we pull up the website and look and go, wow, yeah, I mean, this looks legit. This looks like a really, nice church. And we pull up. At the time, there wasn't the cross out front. It was a very much so a mom and pop, like old school looking church. And so we were kind of what? It's like go from a really are we at the right place?
Anybody here going to be our age? Is that good, right?
Yeah, no, we're going. Okay, there's Anytime Fitness. Right. Okay, so it was definitely a little bit of a jarring experience when we first show up and we come inside. Again, looking at the website and looking at the presentation of this church, we thought we were going to be, we assumed it was going to be, because also we were coming from, the church we were coming from, when we first started there was probably about 300 people. And when we left, it was 2,000, something like that. So major growth during the 4 years that we were there. And so we're going from a 2,000 person church, multi-campus, 2,000 person church. And so, in that experience we went from a single campus to multi-campus while we were there and everything. So going from that to showing up here, when we got here, there was maybe 30 people. This is going back to what's been January 2018. And that was OPCC, visual, like the exterior visually very different, interior very different. Admittedly, wasn't super, super friendly when the first week that we came, if I'm being completely honest. And so our first experience was kind of negative. And so, but bear with me. bear with me.
Yeah, because you're still here. So.
I'm on the OPCC podcast, dogging OPCC so far. But bear with me. So again, bearing in mind, church we came from, very different. So there's quite a bit of contrast. But then, coming out of college, taking your first career job, I get into this career job and I start, interacting with people in the corporate world and your Overland Park type of, professional people. And I start realizing, all of these people are Christians. All of these people don't act like it, but they're all
they
professing.
profess.
Yeah, they
profess,
say they. You get down to the laws. Well, I'm Catholic, but they're not. There's no fruit there. They are bearing no fruit, and that was
There's
a very
belief,
different,
but not commitment.
Yeah, it was
surrender.
a very different experience coming from a rougher side of town, Springfield, where people are just broken. Like they want to know the Lord, but these people, they've got the money, they've got the job, they're fine.
They can do it on their own.
They can do it on their own. They don't need any of this. And so, we were, like I said, we came that first week, and the first week that we came, there were, for the most part, what we saw was, Jimmy absolutely loved Jimmy's preaching because Jimmy was here, and it's like, wow, it's really cool him preaching from the Word, very, very rooted in the Word. And we liked that. We really liked his preaching. At the time, we're just like, let's look around a little bit. I don't think so. So we did. We looked around. We went to a lot of different churches in the area, and a consistent theme that we saw was a lack of emphasis of the Word, the lack of emphasis on discipleship. There was a church in the area we went to. We thought, hey, maybe this is the place, because they were really focused on. There was a focus on the Word, but there was definitely also no focus on discipleship, or it was a very bizarre situation. We kind of started realizing that it just didn't seem quite right, but it was always in the back of our head. When we came and we left, we said, a lot of the right ingredients are here, even how the church presents itself, the message, like the positioning they have, there's a lot here. Let's maybe revisit it. So maybe 6 months later, after 6 months being in my new job, in Kansas City, and experiencing just the difference of community that's here, and going, people don't need high invite. People need some challenge. Like, people need discipleship. Like, these people, they're not broken. They're like, they think they have it all. They're broken, but in a very different way. A very different way. And so that all of that realization took God about 6 months to kind of change our perspective on church to some degree. And so it's like, let's go back. And also, ironically, I play on the worship team here. And so for me, worship is really important. And the first week that we came, it was Brent was the worship leader at the time. And I think Brent was doing exactly what he was supposed to be. I think that's how Corey ended up here. Corey ended up at the church through Brent, be like, hey, I'm going to, there's 30 people here. Can I hire you to come and run sound? Like, can I hire you to, play music here or there? So when we came, the music felt a little bit like a show to me. But the week I think, again, it's the Lord. The week we visited, they announced, hey, this is this is Brent's last week. And again, I don't want to, if Brent, if you listen, I don't know you super well. I genuinely believe that you are listening to the Lord and doing the right thing. But for us, when we came, it didn't feel right for us. We were just like, I don't think this is it. So we said, we'll come back. But it was always in the back of my mind. I'm curious to come see if we go back, if it'll just be one guy with a guitar, just as raw and real as it could be, like high challenge. So if we go back and that's what it is, I think that's probably where we should go to church. We show up and it's just Corey with a guitar. And we're like, all right. And so then, I go up to Corey.
Heart, full on worship and heart. Right?
yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
So it was very like the word was still being taught. Discipleship was still an emphasis. Worship was there. Like the difference in 6 months of like the Roseses were here. Like we ended up, meeting them. They were here at the time.
So much more friendly.
Yeah, so much more friendly. It was just a complete shift. And honestly, at the time, I don't think we were ready to be a part of that mission at the time of what OPCC was doing when we first came. So there kind of needed to be that 6 month time for us to go church shop. For us to go kind of look around and just get an idea of where our heart was at. But anyway, after that Sunday, we went up, said, introduce ourselves to Corey. And then, we went to Unforked. and so like we started, I shared with him that I had a background in music and had a heart for it. And we just talked about the church and discipleship. And we were probably there for 4 hours at Unforked having lunch that day. And I think the next Sunday I played.
Wow.
And so it was Corey on guitar, and I actually played electric guitar because that's what I had been doing. I didn't play keys, the keyboard.
Because I don't know that I've ever seen you play guitar. I think you've always been on keys.
That's kind of what it evolved into. So like I said, the first week I played electric. And we like electric guitar and acoustic. There were no drums. There was nobody. It was, again, we were 35 people at that point in time. And so I hadn't started playing piano whatsoever, but it was just like, piano probably fills it out more. So really from that point forward, I pretty much played piano. But that was really the first time that I played piano in a band setting. I had just kind of dabbled before that. So it is interesting now. I guess I'm 6 years into being mostly a piano player. Which, I said prior to that, not really. I was more of a guitar player, and guitar and bass mainly. But kind of long-winded. But that, I would say, is a lot of what how we ended up here after kind of a 6 month period, and just definitely something different that we started to come to a realization. I think that church in Springfield is absolutely listening to the Lord, and they're in the Word, and they're doing what they're supposed to. I do think that's a really solid church. But if you were to transplant that church to Kansas City, I don't think that it's what Overland Park needs. I think that what Overland Park needs is a church that is willing to be pretty high challenge, a church that's willing to say, let's get into discipleship, let's get into the Word. Like we're not getting together and doing funsy groups, and we're that stuff happens, but let's let that happen naturally. Like we are, as a church, very focused on Scripture, still being high invite. I think we're still a friendly church, but heavy emphasis on discipleship and on the Word, and that is really what ended up resonating with us. And then getting strong relationships with the Martins and with kind of so on and so forth. And but I don't know, anything to add to our how we got here story.
Yeah, I think that's basically it. And then we joined a discipleship group pretty quick after we joined. And I think that's exactly what we needed to just really get into the Word, learn how to eat the Word, and just, again, that high challenge of you're meeting every week with a group of people and you're in the Word and sharing what the Lord's doing in your life. And we went on to lead our own discipleship groups. And I think
let's dive into that a little bit, because you've been here 6 years, almost 7 years. You both have been very integral in the growth of OPCC and having different volunteer roles, different discipleship, leadership roles. Share a little bit about some of the volunteering, some of the ways you've been able to give back or serve through the church.
I guess the first thing I did was I did end up joining the worship team and playing bass. I never played bass before.
I was going to say, you don't look like a bass girl.
No. The only music background, which I guess kind of helped, was I played band. I played oboe, which is like the most random thing to play. But so I kind of at least had the timing part.
Okay, yeah.
But Kevin was just like, we need a bass player. And he's just like, I have a bass. I can teach you. I'm like, okay.
That's fun.
And so started playing bass.
Are you still playing bass? I know you don't. I don't see you up there on Sundays, but at least for fun.
Probably in the future. Once Callum was born, I took a break. Once he was, weaned, I went back and played for a little bit, but then I got pregnant with Holly, and now I'm still in that stage. So once the kids are older, I plan to get back up on there. Now I'm
going to watch for you.
Yeah. Now I'm downstairs with the kids.
Okay.
Felt like that's where God was calling me to go next.
Yeah, I know.
Get to love on the babies.
Yeah, if you roll back the clock to 2019, that band at the time, it was me who didn't play piano really, Brittany who didn't play bass, Corey who did play guitar and sing. But I think if he was on this, he would probably be saying some caveats about himself too. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting group that we had to start with. But yeah, I think it was a really good position, at least for sure for me, because it's kind of where God wanted me, because there's a big need for kind of filling out this worship. We didn't have a lot of people. There were a lot of people with a heart for worship. The church was growing, but you really had kind of a makeshift 3-person worship team. And so Corey and I started something called Create Night back in 2019. And basically what we do is every week we'd get together with whoever was willing to learn. And so Brittany was one of the test subjects. Brittany, are you willing to learn bass? Show up to Create Night and I'll teach you to play bass.
I love this idea though.
Yeah. And so then there were several, like Micah Brackett. He kind of grew up playing classical piano, but was definitely a hard, no way on earth will I play piano, in front of people, and didn't necessarily have experience or, the knowledge of chording and, playing in a band and that type of stuff. So yeah, we used Create Night, and over several months, I can't remember how long, but I remember when we started, he's like, I'll show up and I'll hang out with you guys. But there's no way on earth you're getting me on that stage. Like there's no way. So it was really cool though, you go forward 6 months or whatever, he plays his first Sunday and then he plays his second and his 100th time. He's played played for a while, and he ended up getting married and moving off, going to church. I'm not sure where they're at now, but so it was really cool to see a lot of growth that came out of that. We even got Landon Fields. He played bass for a little while, and kind of boosted up the tech area there for a while. But that was kind of where, when we first started, we were in a discipleship group. So I was in a discipleship group with Corey, Landon Fields, Sean Lee, who's leading worship now, which ironically, Sean didn't go here. He was not attending OPCC, but we were in a discipleship group together, the 4 of us.
Okay.
So yeah, we had a 4-person discipleship group. And Sean was actually a worship leader at a different church at the time. And so it was really cool experience getting to be around. Yeah, I mean, Sean, like Corey was the one leading. He was the one that assembled the group. And that was kind of the connection for Sean into that group. And yeah, just a ton of growth getting to go through discipleship with Corey. Having him lead, having Corey, lead us through lots of just really intentional ways to disciple and different strategies for discipleship. The model looked a little bit different at that time, but I think the heart behind discipleship is still the same. But definitely something that we really needed, I think, for both Brittany and I when we were in college and at Courageous. It was very much so an evangelistic type of church, very much so an outreach and invite church, and we needed the higher challenge too, for sure. Needed to intentionally get into the Word, and kind of understand. I mean, we went to a Christian school, so there was definitely lots of academic approaches to Scripture, but it was really good to, as an adult, as someone facing real world problems, be able to get into Scripture and apply it to what you're going through, and to be able to work through that with a group of guys was really good.
And have that daily rhythm.
Yeah, dive into that a little bit, because you mentioned something about the heart of discipleship, and I don't want to just assume that everybody listening right now has an understanding of what true biblical discipleship is and what it looks like, practically speaking. Yeah. So from your heart, share what that looks like, what you've experienced.
Yeah. So I think in my mind, Jesus makes it really clear. I mean, you see it all over the Gospels about go forth and make disciples. And I think we all see that and go, okay, go forth and make disciples. Sounds good. What is how can I make that practical? And so I really love that heart behind OPCC that says, let's go and be intentional about that. Because we can see, I feel like even at previous churches I've been, discipleship, be the hands and feet, and let's, go forth and tell all the nations. But the actual concept of not just, it's not just a Sunday morning where somebody comes in and like they raise their hand, I accept salvation. But that's adding, that's addition to the kingdom. But really the way that when Jesus came, what he modeled was multiplication, which is I'm going to take 12 and those 12 are going to take 12. And then those 12 are going to take 12. It's disciples that make disciples that make disciples. And I mean, that's how it's supposed to work. it's not like Jesus didn't come to, in fact, he was very the opposite. You see lots of stories of Jesus saying, hey, there's large crowds, I'm going to go off with my disciples. And so it's kind of opposite of the megachurch mentality that's going on now. So the thing I've always loved about OPCC is, yeah, it's been growing. But I mean, when we first got here, we were at 30 to 50 people for a long time. And it was kind of the way we talked about it. Yeah, this is a slow burn. You take me and you take Sean and you take Landon and you let those people soak them in discipleship and you get in the word. And then you take those people. It's like, I left that. Like, I'm going to go start a group and I'm going to go grab these individuals and then they're going to start groups. And that's, so it was incredible to me that it wasn't that long ago that, we only have maybe 5 or 6 discipleship group leaders. And then where we are today, I don't know the number exactly, but significantly more than that of people that are going forth and intentionally saying, yeah, let's break bread together. Let's meet every week. Let's unpack scripture together. And to me, like, that's what church should be about. And that's the model that OPCC really needs.
Because there's leading people to Christ, but then it's like, well, now how do I walk this out practically, right? That narrow path scripture talks about. It's like, need a little help staying on that thing. Yeah. Awesome. So you're on the advisory board. So let's talk about that a little bit, about what that is like to pray for, plan for, have that intentionality for discipleship, for growth, for leading of the church. Like, that seems like, a big mantle to me. It's like,
Yeah, and I definitely joke about, because I think in some churches they'll call it elders, and I'm going, I have to ask my wife. I need to ask my wife how old I am. I can't remember.
28.
28. I'm 28 years old. So I definitely joke about it. Like when and also there's some funny backstory on, because the way that the church kind of operates in terms of, its leadership and the structure that it has is, there's a board of advisors that are really, they're not functioning within the church in a, staff type of capacity, but more from a guidance and direction type of perspective. And that it's kind of a self-elected board where Jimmy will usually go and say, hey, I want to nominate this individual. And then the board will be, there will be a vote within that board as do we want to, add this member or not? And I may be botching all of these steps that go into getting brought onto the board, but Jimmy, kind of doing the nomination or whatever, he hunts on my property. So real shocker, I'm sure. But so he'll hunt on my property. Being as someone that's a runner, I'll go out on a run. I'm like running through trails on my property, and I run underneath one of Jimmy's deer stands, and like I look up. And there's Jimmy. He's up there in all his camo. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, Jimmy. I didn't know you're hunting today.
Scared all the deer off.
Scared all the deer off. I got running through the woods. Like, I'm sorry, Jimmy. And it was funny. I run over. He goes, no, you're fine. This is embarrassing to admit. He goes, I forgot my bow in the truck.
So he's just sitting at the stand with us. It's been devotion time.
So and Jimmy's probably gonna kill me for saying that. But he's like, no, you're fine. He's actually, I was needing to talk to you anyway. You want to be on the advisory board? So I'm looking up at Jimmy 25 feet in the air in this tree, and he's up there without
camo.
In all camo, without his bow in this tree. And so we have that conversation there. Definitely like, I'll pray about it. Was not on my bingo card for sure. But let me pray about that. It's just one of the OPCC and kind of like been talking about the direction the church is heading in and kind of the growth we've had and like seeing discipleship grow. It's been on my heart, and there's kind of two sides of it. One, huge opportunity to learn from some incredible, there are some incredible leaders on our board, and so I definitely kind of joke about what am I doing here? I feel like a imposter syndrome for sure, but it's really been a cool opportunity. One, to be able to learn from the Pat Butlers and Jason Barrett's, and Dan was on the board for a while. He isn't at the moment. Quentin, so on and so forth. Definitely lots of just incredible men getting to see how they approach, the way that approach listening to the Lord and applying that to the business side of the church, because that is a lot of what the board is accountability on our finances, and for Jimmy and so on and so forth. And Jimmy has an official accountability team in addition to the board, but as far as my experience with it, one, it's been really honestly a big blessing to me getting to learn from other men that are in the word and they are thinking about kingdom movement from a business perspective. And even for me in my kind of business career, how can I apply the lessons I'm learning here as well? But no, it's a unique, I'll say at first being on the board, I said, you get into the business side of it. It isn't just, for me, as someone coming from the worship team, there's a feeling side. Worship isn't about feelings. It shouldn't be, but definitely like music is a way that God connects to us physically. And so it's like, I have definitely had that type of experience of, corporate worship and, engaging in worship. And so it's a very different environment, I guess I should say, of saying, oh, no, we need to be thinking about the dollars. It does require finances for us to reach people and for us to do discipleship. I mean, for Brittany and I, being in a discipleship group now, going, well, it's kind of nice if we have babysitters, and the church being willing to say, we are investing into discipleship. We want to remove that barrier for folks. And so, there is some amount of path there for, budget for that and things of that nature. So it was to some degree, it almost felt a little bit like, going to a fast food restaurant, maybe working at the fast food restaurant, go, oh, this is how it's made. So I guess to some degree had a little bit of that experience. Oh man, I hadn't really thought about how much you in order for you to really be a good steward of what OPCC exists to do, you have to be you have to consider headcount, and you have to consider the number of seats in that sanctuary.
You have to be aware of the tools, right?
You have to be a lot more aware. And so it's things that, like I said, it was different for me, but also a good opportunity to kind of grow. I mean, there is God operates really practically and physically. And it's not always something that, I guess I say, it's not always something you think about. Like, you can come to a church and consume to some degree, but the reality is that it's like a lot of this, what the mission of the church is, centers around physical, money and chairs and being able to have the space for people, being able to have places for people to meet and do discipleship. And so, no, it's been one really high challenge of, need to be in the Word, it's a convicting type of challenge for sure of, making sure that your heart is where it needs to be and like being involved in discipleship. So it's honestly, that's one of the things I do like about intentional discipleship or being on the board is those things, they keep you in it. If like faith without some amount of works or something behind it is dead, so I think having that has been honestly really good for my own personal faith journey too, of it's like, no, I need to be praying for the church. I need to be in the Word. I need to be listening to the Lord because, this is important. And not just for myself, not just for my family, but like for our church family. And so it's been a really good experience. And it's just it's different, I guess I should say. But I'm really thankful for the opportunity.
So without, giving any kind of spoilers or anything, being on the advisory board, what is something about the future of OPCC that really excites you? What are you seeing?
That's a good question. There are definitely some long-term things that I am excited for the potential of, but even short-term, definitely excited about some of the roles that we have listed, being able to, bring on a discipleship pastor, in my opinion, that is the most urgent position to fill in the church. Obviously, it's what we've been talking about the whole time, is discipleship. Right. So I think having a resource to come in and really champion that and to keep it going is critical. And so definitely, if anybody's listening, wants to be discipleship pastor.
There you go. We have a listing.
Weird. Definitely excited about that. And I think another kind of future element that I'm excited about, and I'm kind of seeing it in OPCC. There's always a balance of being high challenge and being high invite. And I think for us at the moment, we got to get that discipleship pastor role in here to really press in on the high challenge is the way that I see it. That being able to do the discipleship thing and challenge people to go out and disciple others. Being a disciple that makes disciples is not easy, and it takes quite a bit of courage and willingness to put yourself out there. You don't have to be a big extrovert to go and do that. I mean, I think Brittany can.
Not a big extrovert.
Not a big extrovert.
It was a little intimidating starting one, but had
a
lot of growth for that.
Yeah, a lot of growth and able to start one. Do it. So really excited about that. But then on the high invite side, something that's at least been on my heart recently that I'm excited about is we're wanting to have a little bit of a more direct path to serving here at OPCC. And so not exactly sure what we're going to call it yet. I think probably something around next steps, or I think a lot of churches will call it growth track, something to that effect. But
just draw them into the body a little more.
Yeah, because what I feel like where we're at the moment with OPCC is there are a lot of folks that are in the Word, and they're being obedient. They're doing the right things. But I don't know that it's always super clear what the next step necessarily is. I always hear those conversations from Charles or from whoever else that, man, we really could use more people serving in kids. Man, we could really, for me, I'm the only piano player. Yeah. And so I'm trying to kind of evangelize here and there. It's like, did you play piano growing up? To some degree, kind of evangelizing a little bit, but I think all of that to say it's kind of, as you grow, you start to realize, hey, we can't just, we were originally a church of 30 whatever people. It's like now we're 10 times that size, which still isn't a mega church, but 300 people. It's a little harder to just go and grab lunch with Corey at Unforked for 4 hours and then play on Sunday the next week. It looks a little bit different than that. It has to. And so wanting to come up with not an onboarding, not a church membership class, but because in my mind, if you're just looking for a church that you show up on Sunday morning and then you go home, then just show up on Sunday morning and go home. We don't necessarily need your email or, so it's good to have contact information. But in my mind, having a still somewhat high challenge next step for those that are saying, I don't just want to come and sit in a chair. I actually want to be the hands. I don't want to be a consumer. I want to come in and actually be a part of the kids ministry. I want to be a part of the worship team. I want to do those things. Having a place where someone can come and say, yeah, let's, like, I'll lead that next steps class, but my job is to get people to the right play. Like, if someone's coming in, I can play piano. Let me introduce you to Sean Lee. Let me get you in the door and get you to the right place and kind of introduce who the church is, what we believe, what it means to be serving here. And kind of what it means to be a member. Because in my mind, being a member is not showing up on Sunday mornings. Anybody can show up on Sunday mornings. We all know when that is. You don't have to get a newsletter to know when to show up on Sunday mornings. But if you're somebody that's going, no, I want to yield to what the Lord, I'm being transformed. The Lord is telling me that I need to show up. I want to create a place for somebody to show up. Yeah. And so that's one of the things I'm definitely excited about for the future of OPCC. 1, discipleship more. 2, I think kind of lowering that, not necessarily lowering the bar of entry, but having a place for people to show up. I think that as people are, it's like they're coming to know the Lord and they're getting into the Word. They go, how do I be obedient? What do I do next? Show up. And that's your next step. And then what the next piece of faith you need to do is meet with Sean Lee and somebody play piano as well.
Well, and that's part of the body, right? I mean, because the church isn't the 4 walls. The church is the people. And so get involved. I mean, people talk often about wanting community, wanting connection. Sometimes we have to take the first step in making that happen and just be bold enough to say, okay, you've got the next steps class. I'm going to actually step into it and give it a try.
Make it more obvious.
Make it more obvious. Yeah. And you have a solid plan for that, right? That's kind of the next thing.
Yeah, that's the next thing. So we'll start, this is our first bit of marketing material, podcast talking about it.
Yeah.
But definitely going to be working with Corey to probably start running it in some announcements, get it mentioned in some sermons. We'll start evangelizing it. It's not the next steps class. As to whatever we're gonna call it. We'll start evangelizing. So the plan, it will be after church this will be a reoccurring thing. Maybe it'll be once a month. We'll have to figure out the cadence. But just again, it's an opportunity. If nobody's available to show up, that's fine. We'll be ready to meet with folks after church, and we're gonna go through who the church is and what it means to be a part of the body here and how the church functions. Get into the more of the even some of the details. I think it's good for people to know how the church is governed. Say who are the people and the faces and how this place runs and what the church believes and how do I get plugged into discipleship? How do I start serving? How can I help in kids? How can I help in the tech booth or wherever that is? And so excited about that. And I said we'll figure out the cadence, but at the moment we're leaning towards probably a monthly thing after the second service on Sunday mornings, just creating a place to show up. And I really want to call it a place to show up, but I don't know if anybody will understand that. But to me, it's like being obedient, yielding to the Lord. Like, what is the Lord? Maybe you've come to know the Lord. You've given your life, given your heart to the Lord, you're kind of saying, what do I do next? Like, it's really like the next thing is to just show up here. And it's like through serving is how, and through discipleship, like that's kind of, this should be the entry point to those things.
Yeah.
And so
those next steps of belonging.
Yeah.
So you've been here 6+ years. From both of you, what do you want, or what's your hope prayer that OPC looks like, serves like in the next 6 to 7 years?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Yeah, that is a good question. I think definitely just continue with the discipleship. I think continue that high challenge and have those groups grow more and more, have this class, get people an easier place to plug in, and I don't know, just keep growing, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. At least in my mind, it doesn't necessarily, talked about earlier, it doesn't necessarily matter about the number of seats in here and the number of people that are filling seats or the number of services or any of that, but it's really that OPCC can be, as Jimmy likes to talk about, like a city of transformation. It can be a place for those people that I work with in the corporate world, a place that can be a high challenge, sticks to the word, isn't going to compromise on those things, that we can continue that as the church will inevitably continue to grow. I do definitely believe that whether we are prepared for it or not, that God is doing something here. And I think that more people are going to come through these doors. And so to me, what's important is that we don't lose that identity that made me want to come back, made me want to stay here. When we first came in, it's like, okay, this is about the word. This is about discipleship. Like, this,
make sure that's still the heart of it.
Yeah, that's kind of the core of the church as we inevitably, hopefully grow. We end up having 100 discipleship groups and whatever that looks like, that can stay intact. And to me, even, being on the advisory board and we're talking about, hey, someday will we need a bigger sanctuary? Will we need more parking spots? Will we need all of that? To me, it's no, if that comes at any cost of who we are. And so it's been really cool to hear Jimmy, if he's ever talking about opportunities to, like what if we were able to do a construction project or do any of this? It's always rooted around this concept of a city of transformation. Like it is a physical place that can kind of be a representation of the transformation that God is doing in your heart and in your life. And so being able to kind of keep that, like, we're always about discipleship. That can be a slow burn. The reality is if that causes us to lose people or whatever, it's like our identity stays the same. And maybe some of the operations change, even right now, this next steps class, probably just, it's just a different media. It's a different way to hopefully achieve the same things of what I achieved going with Corey to Unforked for 4 hours. Hopefully Corey doesn't have to do that with every single, that there is an easier way, that somebody doesn't have to know to go talk to Corey and know to go to Unforked for 4 hours. That, there's a Sunday mornings, like here, it's a slide, it's in the sermons, it's in, it makes it pretty clear. It makes it to where just be obedient, show up. That's what's exciting to me.
That is exciting because transformed lives lead to a transformed community. We're really excited about watching God build his kingdom here through OPCC. And if you would love to get involved, if you want to find out what it means to dig deeper into the word, be challenged by that. If you want to find out what it means to enter into discipleship, we would love to invite you to come visit sometime. If you are somebody who has a heart for discipleship, we're looking for a discipleship pastor. We have a couple other positions open as well. We would love to invite you into the community of Overland Park Community Church. And I just want to say thanks, Brittany and Kevin, for taking time today, for sharing your hearts so deeply and your passion. It's hard not to get excited about where the church is going and this new class talking to you because you're so passionate and excited about it. So thank you.